Good morning, everyone. This is the Farm Stand Kitchen. My name is Rebecca, and today we are making broccoli cheese soup. This has been highly requested on the Farm Stand page, so I thought, well, let's just do it. So that's what we're going to do today. We're making broccoli cheese soup. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you what I have going here. That's already, I already have in my pan here. So what I started out with first was 1.5 tablespoons of butter. And I melted that in this pan here. And then I added 1 small onion that was chopped, a teaspoon of minced garlic, and then we also added a pinch of fresh thyme to this. And so we just sauteed our onions for a little bit till they just become tender. And then we added a 32-ounce box, 32 ounces of chicken broth. And that's what you're going to add here. So that's what we have here. So we melted our butter, we added our onion and our garlic, our fresh thyme, 32 ounces of chicken broth, and then we added 16 ounces of frozen broccoli. So this one here is a 12.6, so I added 1.5 of these. So you want about 16 ounces. I didn't have a big bag on hand today, so I'm using my little ones. So 16 ounces of frozen broccoli. This happens to be baby broccoli, but it doesn't matter. You could use a little bigger, and because I'm going to use my immersion blender in this a little bit, so it doesn't matter. You just need some frozen broccoli. And then I also added a cup of shredded carrots, is what we also added here that we're cooking. So we just boiled all this. I actually just pretty much brought it to a boil and then simmered for about 20 minutes is what we did here. So this is the base of our soup right here. We got all this good stuff in here. It's already tender. You want to do that for about 20 minutes. Just cook your vegetables for about 20 minutes, and then you're ready to proceed to the next steps, which we're going to do together. So something else we're going to be using in this recipe is Velvetta Shreds. Now, Velveeta is the perfect thing for broccoli cheese soup because it melts really well and it just has the right cheese flavor. Kind of like what you're used to getting when you order it out. This is what we're going to use for this today, and we're going to use 3 cups of Velvetta Shreds. This is just where your cheese is in the store. All of your shredded cheese. You'll be able to find this. So Velvetta Shreds. So that's what we're working with today. Okay, at this point right here, we're going to go to our next steps. So what I'm going to do in this bowl here, I'm going to add 1 cup of our half and half. Now, those of you watching our show from Canada, the UK, we have viewers all over the world. This is half and half. I get a lot of questions about this. I believe in Canada it's called light cream, but what half and half is whipping cream and whole milk. So it's a milk product. Here in the US we call it half and half. So I'm going to use 1 cup of half and half. So I'm just going to put this in this little bowl because we're going to blend in some flour. So 1 cup of half and half, or light cream. So I'm going to go ahead and put a 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. Then I'm just going to use my whisk, and I'm just going to blend these two together. This is going to thicken our soup just a little bit. Actually, it's just the perfect thickness for this. I'll show you the finished product here in just a few minutes, but this thickens it just perfectly. 1/4 cup of flour. You could do this in a little blender too if you want, but you guys know I'm a bowl and spoon, a bowl and whisk kind of girl. This is just the way I do it. All right. So there we go. Now I'm just going to put this right here in our soup mixture. I just want to pour it right in. Let's get that mixed in there. Now we're going to bring this back up because this is raw flour in here. We want to bring this back up to a simmer because you want to cook that raw flour. It's already starting to look like a broccoli soup, isn't it? And we'll talk about the immersion blender in a minute, because if you like your soup to have more texture and be chunky like this, you could totally leave it like this. You don't have to puree it at all if you don't want to. But I kind of like to do it a little half and half. I like a little texture, but I also like it a little blended too. And an immersion blender is perfect for that. Okay, so we're going to let that get back up to... A lot of people ask me why we use the hot plate. The reason why we do is because this is a tiny kitchen and it's really hard for Dave to film at the stove. It's just almost impossible. So we always use our hot plate, which works great for us. All right, so in all my cream-based soups, you guys know that I add a little nutmeg. So I'm just going to add just a tiny bit, just a little pinch. And we'll go ahead and mix that in too. We'll let this get to doing its thing here. Boy, does that smell good. I made this yesterday so I could have some to show you guys. At the end here, Dave had just a little bit last night. You know, Dave, he gets to try all the good stuff. He's the taste tester around here.
It's all good.
It's all good. Dave, he's my biggest fan. It's all good around here. All right, let's see here. Now, salt and pepper. I don't add salt and pepper till the very end, till after we add the cheese in here, because you know how processed cheese can be just a little bit salty, I think. So I like to adjust my seasonings at the end. So I just think it's best to do it that way. All right, okay, we're getting a boil on here. It's coming up. Gonna kind of let it do its thing here. I'll move a couple of these things out of the way and get my, okay, here's our cheese. And then I'm gonna get my immersion blender ready to go here. So this is my immersion blender. This one's actually made by KitchenAid. Any immersion blender will work, but we're going to just blend this a tiny bit here in a little bit. And we'll be doing that. This is our cheese, our 3 cups of our Velvetta cheese. I want this to kind of get going here a little bit. This is going to thicken just a little bit, and we want to cook that flour. Now, I know a lot of you told me last night that you was a little intimidated, like you love this soup, but you just thought it was hard to make. It is not hard to make. It is so easy. There's nothing to it. Soups are one of those things where I just throw them together, because you guys know I'm a scratch cook, and I rarely use recipes for soup. I'm just let's dump and go. But I have to figure these out for you so you can follow along with some ingredients and amounts. And I did that yesterday and it turned out perfect. So we're going to let this get going here. You know, I've had a lot of you guys ask me on the page how I got started cooking, and wanted to know if I was a home ec teacher. I am not a home ec teacher. And I have not been to culinary school, but I started cooking at a very young age. I remember being plopped up on the table by my grandmother. Our maternal grandmother lived with us. So I had a mom, a dad, and a grandma and siblings in my home. She used to plop me up on the table and give me a spoon. Maybe that's why I use a bowl and spoon all the time. Grandma got me started on that. Maybe that's why. And we used to make pumpkin pies. I remember she'd give me the spoon and let me mix all that up. And I was just a little tot. I was like 4. So I clearly remember that. And then I also remember my mom and dad were both working people. And when I would get home from school, my mom would have something out of the freezer, like a roast or pork chops, round steak. We always had beef and pork in the freezer. And she would just tell me this is what I took out. So gather up some other things from the basement because we had a big garden. We put up a lot of food, and she would just tell me to go for it, just get something on the table. And that's when I was like 12, 13, 14. That was my duty there. When I was growing up, I was making supper when I was really young, and I kind of had to create it myself. I think that's where I got my creative thinking with cooking. I've just always created stuff in the kitchen. It's just kind of my wheelhouse. And it was worked out really well. I've learned a lot about cooking over the years. My mom used to have a Sunday afternoon coffee hour with her friends, and ladies would come in and she would ask me if I would just make a dessert. Can you just come up with a dessert? And I used to create all kinds of things for Sunday afternoon coffee hour. So I've been cooking a long time, and I love it. All right, so this is starting to thicken up for us. I got this at the max. So you want to do this just till it comes up to a boil. See there, it's boiling. Then you want to just simmer. Simmer that for a good 10 minutes. You want to cook that raw flour in there. And then we're going to add our cheese. So here's our 3 cups of our Velvetta shred. Go ahead and let that melt. It's pretty easy, you guys. There's nothing to broccoli cheese soup. It just goes together really quickly. Tastes really good. Now remember here at the end to adjust your seasonings. Taste it and see if it needs a little pepper. I guarantee it needs pepper. I always add pepper without tasting. I'm gonna go ahead and just add some pepper. Okay. I'll just stir that in. But see how quickly that cheese melts? It's just perfect for broccoli cheese soup. And see, it just thickens up really well. It's just good. Now you need some crusty bread to go with this. Make sure you got some of that. Looky there. We just made broccoli cheese soup. Pretty good stuff. And like I say, we're going to just use the immersion blender just a little bit. And like I say, you don't have to, but I like to do it just a little bit. I'm just going to blend it up a tiny bit. Need just a little bit more reach here. There we go. And I'm staying up in the middle. I'm not getting to the bottom because this is a non-stick pan, so I don't want to scrape that. That's good enough right there for me. I still like some chunks in there, but I like to smooth it out just a little bit too. So now let me show you what this looks like now. See, you have a few big pieces of broccoli. Then we got a nice puree on some of it too. That is perfect. We should have invited some people for lunch today, Dave. They would love this. It smells so good. All right, I'm going to bring the other one over here so you can see it. I'll move this one out of the way. Okay, so this is the one that I did yesterday. And it's still warm here. I just heated it up. And see, look at that. That is some good stuff. Let's just ladle some up. Now you could, excuse me, you could put some bacon on here. You could put some extra cheese. You could just add whatever you want to it. Let's put a little cheese on it. There we go. All right, let's give it a taste. Farm stand broccoli cheese soup. Great flavor. This is delicious. All right, try yourself some broccoli cheese soup.